Today we have with us Cesar Picco and Erin Kellett.
Hey.
Cesar has been working within in the BI world in one way or another for 10 years. Passionate about visualizations and dashboards, Cesar has helped teach many companies how to visualize their data. Erin is an enthusiastic data geek who has been using and teaching others to use Tableau for over 6 years. For the past few years, she has been helping people get the most out of their data and Tableau as part of a BI COE, or Center of Excellence. At this point, I'll hand it over to you, Cesar and Erin. Welcome.
Thank you, Emily.
Thanks, Emily.
So first, we want to start off by thanking the organizers of the Fringe Festival, Emily and Jen. It's been fantastic. We also want to thank the community as well for all these great presentations so far. And we hope you like our presentation too. We've put in some good amount of time and effort into this, so it's hopefully we're very excited about sharing this. So let's go ahead and get started. So great, you've started a Center of Excellence. Now, what do you do? What's the next step?
So, Agile Elements defines a Center of Excellence as a team of people that promote collaboration and using best practices around a specific focus area to drive business or customer valued results. So that's just one definition that we found that we kind of liked. We're going to show you some of the things that we've learned from our Center of Excellence.
So Tableau and the community will actually put out a good amount of information about what it is to build a Center of Excellence. So some items are community building, setting up lunch and learns with your community, and also having doctor sessions. But really the reason we're doing this is because there's so much more involved in having a COE. We wanted to share just a small amount of the knowledge that we have about being team members in a COE.
And it's not only it's not the only way to do it, but it's what has worked for us.
True. So what's funny is once you set up a COE, you'll see that there are a good number of questions that come in. And you start having these questions and you pose into your team of like, how do we have people contact us? Who responds back? Who deals with issues? Who manages servers? How do you deal with all this? And how are you going to fit this all in your day? It's quite daunting, and it's actually it is quite a major hurdle to get through when you first get started. The reason we're here really is to share this knowledge that we've learned from a lot of our successes, but mostly also from a lot of mistakes that we've made along the way. So hopefully you can take a lot of these into heart, and really it helps. It'll help you.
So we want to talk about breaking out the workload, support, training, back-end work, and projects.
So really within the COE world too, what we found is that the projects really, it does take a good amount of your time. But let's start with support.
So the support intake process is where all requests come in. So organizations members can contact you with license requests, project requests, questions, use cases, trainings. They can also identify bugs. And one benefit we wanted to mention about evaluating license requests is that you can help users utilize the technology they need, not what they ask for. Sometimes they only need access to a Tableau server dashboard and don't need a license request. Those are very different price points.
Now, how are they going to contact you? Well, really for us, we look at an intake coming from Outlook. You can set up an Outlook inbox or a ticketing system, SharePoint workflows, forms, carrier pigeon, really fill in the dots. Really, it's any way you'd like. But just make sure there's someone on the team or everyone on the team is there to respond back immediately or in a timely manner, probably best manner to your user base.
And one note about Outlook, it can be hard to manage an inbox with multiple users, so make sure you have a system so that if someone reads an email, they either respond to it or forward it on, or something like that.
Your intake process should also be seamless. So try to keep your internal processes internal to your team. Also, it's good to have a point of contact that is kind of kept through the process. Really, team members can go through and hand off issues to other points of contact, bring other people in on the conversation. But really, once they've started the process, they stick with the process and make sure, there's full resolution. You'll stick with it till the very end of it. Make sure your processes are very really seamless to the user.
Yeah, and you can connect end users with the right people and help them walk through the processes. It could be a DBA, it could be a Tableau server administrator. Be careful not to punt requests and just send them onwards, but really walk them through the whole process.
Now, the next step is training. And one of the big things we want to cover really, and want to make sure people know about, is that training is really a personal thing.
So it's a big thing that a Center of Excellence does. And what we've found that in-person trainings and individualized trainings can be the most effective.
Yeah, really, with every license request, we'll start with an in-person training session. Also, make sure you make the training relevant too.
So a few things we've helped with training about making it relevant is don't use the exact data set the person works with, because that can be distracting and you can't scale that kind of training, but use relevant data sets. So it's easier for the trainee to apply the Tableau skills they're learning to their own data and keeps them more engaged.
Also, do it yourself. Build your own training sessions and make sure that everyone on the team helps to create this and they all work within this process. And also make sure everyone can present these. Make sure everyone knows how to get through all the training sessions on your team.
It really helps for scale and for customizing. So the first walkthrough we offer, we're going to go through a few of the different training sessions that we've done. The first one we offer is the walkthrough. So this is offered to every new user who gets a license right away. And it covers the basics they need to know to build a handful of charts. And it walks them through what dimensions are, measures are, how to connect to data. We try and keep this session pretty short, so about 1 hour, to keep from overloading people. The full day trainings tend to be a little bit overwhelming. But at the end of it, they follow along with us and they have a dashboard they can take back to their desks and practice with.
So next is also our introductory training. And this session's a little bit longer, and what this does is really we make it about a 2 hour long session, and these are follow along demos with exercises too. What we do with these though is we cover chart types and best practices, as well as measure names, measure values, also light table calcs, as well as light calculated fields. So also within this, it's really nice to see your users kind of evolve into that next step.
And as part of the exercises, we like to have at least one person walking around to help them as they're completing their exercises.
We usually find actually it's 3 student to 1 team member ratio is actually really good for these sessions because it still keeps that personalized, really that feel for all the users.
So another thing we offer is an intermediate training. So this can be longer, multiple 2 to 3 hour sessions. And it talks about more complicated chart types, scatter plots, box plots. We do increased calculations, as well as more advanced formatting to really take your dashboards to the next level. So for us, we recommend that for intermediate training, attendees have already taken the other sessions and used Tableau for a little while. It helps to really stick if you've encountered some of these issues before, and now this is teaching you how to get around it.
So, fantastic tip we found. This is really a pro tip from Paul Vanu. He does suggest naming and branding your training sessions. Trust us, it works. It does a good job, and you can really ask people based on that name that you've picked for that session if they've completed that.
It also helps if you let your end users know what the training offerings are and establish a regular cadence for them, because during one training they're going to ask you what's next, when can I learn more. They get really jazzed about Tableau.
So unfortunately, we've got no time for the back end. There's so much involved in the back end, but there's really wonderful content out there already. But back end work, what that really involves, what we consider is service ticket maintenance with Tableau, system engineer, admin, collaboration, upgrades, backup, maintenance, and downtime, and also issues that come in from the community during through our intake system. So there's a lot that we can do at the back end, but really there's so much that we just can't fit it within this presentation. But we don't want to leave you empty-handed. So there's so much to say here, but really it's been covered already. And you know what? Quite eloquently, if you haven't done so, we highly suggest reading blogs by Paul Benoob and Paul Chapman. And really, I think, my opinion, they've kind of written this virtual textbook on Center of Excellence setup.
Okay, and now we're going to talk about the largest bucket of COE work, projects.
Now, project management, it's actually good to have a little bit of project management knowledge coming into the COE. You don't really need much, but really go through and find a process that works for your team. It can be waterfall, agile, or some sort of hybrid, something but just make sure it works. Keep a tracking system to help you with your time management skills as well as prioritization. And also having check-in meetings. We mentioned here weekly, they could be daily, they could be monthly, depends on what works with your team and what works best. But it just helps keep everybody on the same page and make sure your priorities don't fall off your inbox.
It can also help you with preventing from duplicating work or solving the same problem multiple times. Okay. So one big thing you need to decide as a Center of Excellence is, are you going to take on the task of building workbooks and dashboards for others, or just supporting people as they build dashboards? So if you do decide to build workbooks for others, just be ready. It's a large time commitment. You also have to be ready not just to build the initial one, but to also support it going forward, making changes, updates, fixing it if it breaks. Be ready.
So with that, we want to also bring in really the idea of traditional report building. This is kind of something we started off doing here at the COE too. And really what this does is you go through, you gather requirements, build, you review this with the client, and then you do it again, rinse and repeat. And this might actually go on and on and on. Tableau really tends to be, there's many iterations to doing this. Now, the drawbacks to this, though, is that it takes time to get to know the data. Clients, they're not as invested with the results. And this also will require ongoing updates, too, along the way. In addition to that, there's only so many people on the Center of Excellence staff. So it can be really a major time constraint. And you also start turning down work in some cases, or deprioritizing work at the same time.
It also, you work with different types of users, and the traditional report building method doesn't work with all types of users. If someone's a do-it-for-me type, they're like, I have ideas, but I can't do them. Just do them. I'll tell you what to do. Then the traditional model works okay. If they're an I'll do it, I'll just ask you some questions, or let's do it together, then it's not really going to work very well. They won't really use the product, and they might not trust the product.
So we'd want to introduce something that Erin and I have actually come up with, and it works out extremely well. We refer to it as the working session. And this is very different than your traditional project, really your traditional project process. It's fantastic, and we've seen it actually saves a lot of time and keeps our clients and customers really happy.
Yeah. So what is a working session? Working sessions are rapid Tableau prototyping by bringing the right people in the room for short bursts, 1 to 2 hours, to get dashboards built. And one thing I like to think about when it comes to working sessions is Tableau itself. Tableau has revolutionized reporting because decision makers can ask their own questions of the data. They don't need to ask some questions to an analyst. The analyst builds a report. They come back a week later, and then they see something in the data, ask more questions, get the report a week later. So by doing working sessions, you actually kind of mirror Tableau's own strengths, and you can together build that and have more of a self-service dashboard building.
So why do these? Why do a working session? Well, you create your product quickly. You also make your end users look really good. You get them jazzed and engaged with your team. And also, you create sustainable solutions that end users can really own and they take with them out of that meeting. You also help emphasize, well, visualization, interactivity, and dashboarding's best practices, because you're there to make sure nothing goes awry in that process.
So how do you do a working session? So before the session, you have to make sure that you've clearly defined the questions, the audience for your report, that kind of thing. You also need to make sure that the team that's going to be working on it has the data access they need, because that can really slow up a session. And then also review the scoping template. So you may need a pre-meeting before the working session to review the scoping template that we're going to talk about in our next slide. And then set up a session for 1 to 2 hours. We've done longer than this. Everyone is really tired and no one really remembers what you do in hour 3, and the decisions that are made aren't quite as good. Try and stick to the 2 hours. And then start dashboarding. You can do whiteboarding. I know some people really like this kind of method, but sometimes we have found that tableauing can be better. So whiteboarding can be really aspirational, like I want a bar graph that looks like that, but sometimes your data won't really let you do that. So if everything starts on the same day, a timeline graph just really doesn't look that good. So that's why if you kind of do this whiteboarding but through Tableau, you can really quickly develop something that they can then take back.
Scoping. So there's a lot involved in scoping your session. First, you want to know who's the audience for this report. Also, questions the reports need to answer. What actions and decisions will the user take after looking at this report? Also, how is this audience going to consume the report? Are they going to print this? Is it going to be online? Is it going to be through Tableau server? Is this through a website? How's that audience going to consume this? And where does your data come from? And also, who approves the dashboard before it goes live?
And that approver can really, if they're only brought in at the last minute, they can really derail things. So it's important to know that early so you can engage them early, or your report owner can engage them early. And one other plug about the question about what actions or decisions will the user take when looking at the report. This is a really important question because you can really easily test with an end user. Okay, they need to do this. When they look at these graphs, can they actually do that? Can they actually make that resourcing decision they need to make? So that's a really great way to test your hypothesis about what a good dashboard is. So who should attend? So we found that 3 main types of people are the people you need in this meeting. One is the Tableau expert. They're the COE member. They hold the pen or mouse in this case. The report owner or builder, they're the person who knows their data, they know what they want to show, and they can also make the business logic and report interpretations on the spot. If they want to change a title, create a calculation, they'll know what they want the calculation to do, and the Tableau expert will know how to do that calculation. A third person that, if possible or applicable, is a really great addition to the team is a DBA, or someone who knows the data really well. They can even make changes to the data during the session. Sometimes Tableau needs you to add fields, unpivot data, things like that. The data expert can do it while you're there, and you can see if it works for what you need.
Really, there's nothing better when you actually can make that progress in the meeting, and it just works so well for the team too. So what to watch out for? What kind of pitfalls are there? Well, you definitely want to manage your expectations. This is not formal Tableau training. We've covered that before. That we have those. This is also really, when you leave here, this is just a rough draft. So whoever the product owner here can take this and keep working on this on their own. You also want to make sure you double check the product, make sure you're answering the right questions, and you're using your right data sources too. And finally, try to avoid too much homework on the end of the COE team. Really, at this point, once you finish, you probably should keep your work outside of the session down to a very minimum. Even though on occasion, I know there's sometimes when we do have, certain table calcs where we have to come out and really take some time to work through this.
But if someone wants to see 10 more graphs and 5 more pages, schedule another session. It's not a one-off it doesn't have to be one and done type of thing, but okay, those are some good ideas. Let's do another session and do those. So you avoid too much requirements gathering while having to then do a lot of work afterwards.
It's always interesting to see what the product owner actually brings back to you that second session.
Yeah.
Because they'll be working on it. So.
And they'll review it with their boss or other people that are going to be using the dashboard.
So
some lessons we've learned from doing these working sessions. One is start small and easy. Don't try and take the most complicated, most difficult report or try and replicate the report that's going to be the hardest to replicate. Just start small, do some trends, do an overview dashboard, something like that to really get used to the data and get used to working together. Also, don't be constrained by perfection. This is a rough draft. All the data labels and all the formatting doesn't need to be perfect during this session. That can be something in a future session. Also, be ready to help transition reports when someone leaves to make sure that it has a new owner. Sometimes you will spend a lot of time working in working sessions with someone, and when they leave, no one's really taken up the mantle and no one really knows about the report anymore and can make those changes. Be sure someone in the business is owning that moving forward. And then if something is taking you a lot of time to figure out, do your homework. Have a follow-up session to review and move forward. So you don't have to spend 30 minutes figuring out a complex table calculation or a weird data thing during the meeting. You can table that, do other things during the working session, and then figuring out later with your team, and then review with the person and move forward in a future working session.
I found sometimes it's easy it's an easy process to go through and start off. If there's something that you'll need to take off and back for, let's say, homework, for example, it's nice to get started just so the product owner also understands that, hey, this is complex. You know, Erin or Cesar couldn't do this in this session here, so we may need to give them a little bit of time to figure this one out too. So teamwork. It's so important at the COE. Really, you're not alone. You know, use your team to get over and around a lot of the obstacles. Your team has so many talents, and really each and every person can take the lead on each different challenge you encounter. Also, something that Erin brought up earlier too, with a lot of the issues that we get, sometimes we'll be in a working session. I don't know the answer to this. So usually what we end up doing is coming through and having a quick meeting with the team, and I throw the question out to the team to see what they come up with. Also, through working sessions too, if you've got a teammate that's really talented at something, bring them with you. If you've got a GIS expert on team and you guys are mapping, bring them with you to your working session. I think your clients will really appreciate this.
You can also, by using your team's talents, you can also better leverage their experiences even at the organization. So if one person's worked on project management dashboards for 3 other teams, the 4th project management dashboard with a different team might not actually be that different than all the other ones, and maybe all those issues that you're encountering have already been solved by another teammate.
So finally, hopefully all these teams help you love your work and your team a lot better. Hopefully that was a good presentation for you guys, but I did see a number of comments and questions coming through.
Okay.
So let's go back and let's see what we got. So here, and I've lost my Zoom. Oh, here it is. There we go.
Check.
Yep. So, oh my gosh. All right. So there's some really good stuff here. Oh, you guys are wonderful. All right. So yeah, sorry guys that we actually kind of went full steam.
Yeah.
And
fast.
really went through this too, but we'll make the presentation available to people too. So, and people love our picks.
Yeah.
And some people have to go to work, unfortunately. But yes, we'll make this available online, and I know Emily's recording this too. Yes, but yes, exactly. Thank you, Joshua. We're reading some of these points, and Emily. Oh my gosh, you guys are so kind.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. This is really sweet. So videos will
trying
be
to read through if
available.
there's any questions for us to answer
Yeah.
now.
But yeah, if you guys have questions,
If anybody does have questions now,
shoot them through. We've got some time. We actually built in a little bit of time into the session, so we're really happy to do this. And really, just I'm blushing at the moment if you can't tell. But these are very sweet. So just supporting people is a large time commitment. Yes, very true. And a +1 for branding and training. Yes, Batman had to follow Robin at some point. Very good, very good.
Cesar and Erin, this is Emily. Can you share some of the tools that you use, whether it's SharePoint or how you do your communications? I know that you mentioned like Outlook for managing some things, but in your experience, what's worked well and maybe what's not worked so well and why not?
It's funny, we warn against Outlook inboxes just because we did have a team with a number of people actually hitting the same inbox. And we had a system in place to keep things unread unless you're taking them on. But that gets very hard to manage, and it became a point where things were falling off the, I guess really our queue, just because we thought someone else was taking care of them. So it takes a lot of communication. So we've moved into kind of more of like a SharePoint form. It helps us with certain things. We still have the inbox for just general questions or if people don't know what to do. But now we've actually started using different SharePoint forms.
Yeah, we've tried to, for end users, we've tried to keep it really loose. They might not know that they have a Tableau server question or Tableau desktop question or something like that. That's where the central inbox can be really helpful. We can figure out if they're actually having a database access issue and it's none of the things that we thought it might be. But we also, for things that are fixed requests, like a Tableau server request to create a new project, which is how we manage permissions, we have now, for trackability, added a SharePoint list to this. So it's a little bit of a combination of the two.
So I see here Paul Banoob, actually one of our, it's at this level. He's shot us a question. How important is the community to the COE? How critical is, well, it's incredibly critical. I mean, it's wonderful that we have a great community. We have some, right out of the box, when we see them, we go through training and we see superstars right away. And they just get it. When they see Tableau, they can't wait to go through and really start visualizing everything. So it's interesting to see, but also you want to get everybody together. I know we've tried to schedule a lot of events, both internally in the organization and externally. You know, here we're in DC, so the Washington DC TUG is definitely a good resource, and Tableau is really very, very accessible here in the city as well. So there are different meetup groups. Also, there are data visualization meetup groups. There's data meetup groups, API meetup groups. So there's a lot that we encourage externally, but internally too. We want to get our community talking to each other. We want also, one of the nice parts about having our training sessions in a classroom is that everyone gets to meet each other and they know really who's at the same levels. So they can start to network there too. And you start hearing something we talk about in our training sessions are use cases. And people can bring up their different use cases as long as they're free to talk about them. But really they start seeing that, oh, hey, you're working on project management too. Let's get together and really show off our dashboards. Yeah. So let's see.
I'll do a question.
Ooh, yeah. Jive's a great community hub. And really for a hub, we haven't come up with anything. It's funny because it all kind of comes through the team, and we kind of tend to send it back out to people. All right.
Is one thing you could change about your initial approach? What would it be? That's a good question. I think knowing what we know now, we would have done working sessions sooner.
Yes.
So we did have cases where we would be building reports for people, and then they'd be like, oh, that was nice. And then they were not as invested in the report as they needed to be to keep it going, to talk to other people about it. They have to communicate to their managers about this report. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Okay, I'm going to go over here now.
something also about the working sessions that you'll notice from your teammates at the COE, and it's funny because when we started using this, it was probably about a 60-40. We kept traditional projects going about 60%, where 40% were our working sessions. But at one point, we went 100% working sessions, and our teammates would look at us and just go, "Hey, now that we've been doing working sessions, I've got all this free time. What do I do now?" It's interesting because there's not a lot of email back and forth. Really, it's all about setting up the sessions. Everything you need to cover. You take care of that in the session, and also your primary users, and sometimes your main really your main consumers are there as well. So it's nice to hear from them. But once you're out of there, you can come up with training sessions. You can cover your inbox. You can cover a lot of server issues. So there's a lot more that would freeze us up to do.
Or plan community events.
That too. Yeah. Are we using Slack at all? We use Slack as it's funny. We've got we've got a fun team of we refer to ourselves as the DC Data Ninjas on Slack, but we really just kind of have fun internally.
Yeah, just kind of outside of work stuff.
Outside of work, but yeah, at work, not really. We should actually. Slack is actually a great tool. So let's see. Oh, cool. How do you balance your front end work and as well as the back end work?
Hey, those are all great questions. That was a wonderful presentation, guys. Thank you very much. And I am definitely looking forward to the recording of the video a week later, and then we're going to also share slides as applicable. So definitely good time.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a lot of no's.
We'll come back. Don't worry.
Jen, I think we have a little bit of time if they want to continue on.
Oh, okay. Don't everybody jump off. Get back on.
Right, we'll stay around just for everyone. Yeah. So I guess a big question here is, how do you balance your front end work and your back end work? And a lot of it actually was we struggled with this. And actually it was the working sessions that helped us do this. So it's funny because we have so much more time now to balance this. Really, if we're not doing project work for people, there's so much to talk about.
Yeah.
So it's
more on the back end work. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And having the working sessions, you can reserve that time to do that front end work. And then the other time will just be your back end work.
Group chat at Paul Noob also works brilliantly, and it does.
Oh, that's really interesting.
I know internally we've kept smaller chat groups open, but I think also a lot of time we're out really doing working sessions. So it's interesting at times. Sometimes it's usually like one person who's still in the office, kind of watching the inbox. Making sure things are still going well. And group link, fantastic.
That's a really interesting idea.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is great, guys. Thank you.
You guys are user base.
Well, I'd say we're kind of like a mid-size. We're not very large now. Let's see. Thank you. He says size matters. Yes. How big is the team now? Our team is changing. We've actually Erin and I have just taken on a new role, and our team has gone from a team of 4 to a team of 2. So we're actually in the process of rebuilding out, but also this is something I wanted to bring up under teamwork too. It's if team members leave to go to better positions, more power to them. It's great. It's not the end of the road. It's not disastrous. It's actually better for us in general as a community. Really, if we have something that works well and they're going out and sharing this with other groups, I'm more than happy to do that. So
yeah. It's also a great test of your knowledge management that you already have. So do we know what's in their heads before they leave and that kind of thing?
I'm just laughing at Fee's comment here.
What is it?
She wants to know how big Josh's is. So Paul says his community is ranked 13th out of 2,500 communities. That's awesome. People love it. That's great. Huge. That's great.
That's
Josh,
really cool.
Josh has got 1,600 desktop
yeah,
users.
that's huge. That's
okay,
huge.
now we're comparing
Okay.
user sizes. So, all right. So, how do we leverage the skills and power of the power users to the advantage of our own team? That's actually it's a great question,
that is
too.
a great question. So one thing we do is to, with power users, we use them for feedback, for trainings, feedback for upgrade, so they can pre-test upgrades, that kind of thing. We also have them speak at our internal events. So internal events, like we wouldn't necessarily do a lot of speaking. We can do a Tableau demo or something small, but we can have them talk about what's worked for them and what they've actually used it for, because that gets people a little more jazzed than us telling them, oh, Tableau is great.
Something else I wanted to bring up as far as like just management of projects when it comes to power users specifically is add in some time for success, because it's interesting when we work with people, it seems like they're shooting towards failure, or what if this goes wrong, what if that goes wrong, but what I see takes up a lot of time also is what happens if you succeed? What happens if this really blows up and people love it and everyone wants to replicate this?
Yeah.
So plan for that, because I mean, really, with a lot of our power users, they're very successful and they do great work, and it's something that we need to keep in really just mind for time management. That hey, we might need to write up blurbs on this, or really spend some time getting them out and really, I guess, cultivating a lot of what they're doing. So yeah.
We can also, if power users have tackled a problem that someone else is now trying to tackle, we can also connect them, and we like to maybe be in that meeting as well so we can learn, but we can also connect people that have done it with people that have done it.
Yeah, then oh my gosh, I'm reading Paul and Jeffrey's. They've got a lot of users, so this is great. Let's see. So yeah, struggle because we're on the business side, and most of our COE time is above and beyond the day-to-day deliverables. Yeah, that's something too where it's interesting. Where we found the definition of COE, one thing that they bring up too is that a COE can either be full-time or part-time. We've taken the full-time route. The difficult part with part-time, but part-time COEs have worked, and they've worked. I've seen some very successful part-time COEs. The difficult part there is just making sure people know what their roles will be, and sometimes it may be a case where everybody just kind of vanishes and you don't know where to find people. So
they become quarter end or year end.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So yes, encore. Oh my gosh.
Thanks, guys.
So thank you so much. You guys are wonderful. Oh. So yes, it is harder on a larger. Just something Jeffrey wrote to us. Within the larger COEs, yes, it's harder to standardize and monitor all this. Really, when you get to those massive sizes, at one point you really just want to make sure the best practices go through branding. Excellent point there. Make sure you get in touch with your design groups and make sure you've got your great color palettes in Tableau and things stay to brand. It's amazing how professional charts look when they are to brand colors too. Right, design decisions. There's so much there. So all right, let's see. So style guides, yes, actually. What's your take on style guides here?
Yeah. So we're on an older version of the tool, so we've built in what we can when it comes to style guides. So we have a custom color palettes in there, and in each training we emphasize the use of the custom color palette and some other visualization best practices. We don't have templates yet. I'd be interested to learn more about how others are implementing templates, as well as style guides. We're working on some design guidelines, and so that'll hopefully inform any kind of future style guides we offer.
And they'll be open source too, so anyone's organization can actually start and use them as a template too. So yeah, once they're complete. So Adam Crane, yes, hello Adam. How do you battle the culture change, especially in the government space? Oh yeah, happens frequently, and it's something where I think really just having a tight team, a really tight team, it helps with this, because we're out in the organization and we cover all corners, almost all corners of the organization. So we hear things, we come back, and it's funny because we can start almost strategizing, what we'll do to counteract some changes that are happening, or what do we need to start scheduling some time for this group, or an addition for another group, just because leadership changes, or they might have new reports coming through, or it might be completely reorging. So Tableau champions, yes, we love Tableau champions.
That's really cool.
So we want to make sure we don't run into anybody's time here. I just saw Steve come through.
Okay.
But yeah, you guys have some wonderful messages, and we will be around, and still feel free to send us messages through to Twitter, and we'll be going through and answering those. But oh my gosh, you guys have been fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Really, really wonderful. This is great. Also, we've Ultrix Trailblazers. That's awesome. I love that feed.
That is so cool.
It's great. And yes, we'll be in Austin, and we must talk.
Thanks.
So, thank you, everybody. You guys have been wonderful, and hopefully we can discuss more later.
Cesar and Erin, just real quick, just how large is the user base that you all are supporting?
It's actually, we have I'd say, seeing the massive size, how large is the user base that we're supporting?
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's not very large at all. I think we're going
to some of the ones on the
compared to some of those, we're gonna shy away from giving out exact numbers just because of I guess really we're doing this on our own. We're not doing this because of our organization.
We're not representing anyone other than ourselves.
But yes, really, we wanted to go through. We found something that works extremely well, and we've got to share it with community, because hopefully you guys can take this in and save yourselves a lot of time.
Yeah. Okay. And provide feedback. If you found things that work even better, then we definitely are looking forward to talking more about it.
Okay, and we do have just a few more minutes. So one of the questions, and I just don't recall if you answered it or not, is do you share your data standards?
Well, I guess it's interesting. Part of our work and what we do within the COE is part of it is data governance too. We'll get some requests that are just really out there.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that we actually stick to our data governance practices internally. As far as sharing them externally, I don't know if we were actually able to do anything like that. So
sure.
I'd actually kind of keep quiet about that. But there's something that you can do really as a COE, really is get to know a lot about data governance too. Get to know data governance,
your data governance team,
privacy as well. Really understand the data sets, because you'll get a lot of requests to do things, and it may not be in everyone's best interests. So it's something that we've found in the past is that, Tableau it's a great self-service tool, but there's a lot of just rogue data sets running around organizations. So also make sure you know where the data sets are coming from. Make sure you actually make sure your users just tap into the source. So that's really, I think, probably one of our prime directives.
Yeah.
Is making sure people really get great quality data to report on.
As well as make friends with your data architects, because they're going to be the ones when someone does a really crazy Tableau query and it hurts the database, they'll call you, but good to be friends with them.
Yes,
you
exactly.
Help your users work with the data architects to create something that's a little more database friendly.
Wonderful guys. All right, cool. So it looks like there's I think we've gotten through a lot.
Okay.
It's been a great session. I mean, you guys, once again, wonderful.
Thank you so much.
And feel free to reach out to us via Twitter. We've got our Twitter handle is TFF16 Cesar Erin.
Yes.
So feel free to shoot us questions that way too. We'll be happy to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
So, great.
Awesome. Thanks.
You guys are wonderful. Thanks.
Thanks,
everyone. Thank you so much. That was really great. And I think that you'll get some folks reaching out to connect offline. So thank you so much for your discussion today. It was fantastic. We'll take a short break, and we'll start at 3 p.m., which is in 16 minutes, for our next session, which is a pre-recorded session from Wasim Ali.